Hello everyone, I'm Colin Knath. Welcome to another episode of subscriber tips and tricks sent in by subscribers just like you. And before I forget, I want to remind you, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do that and click the little notification bell, and that way you'll know every time I upload a new video. But today I've got some really cool stuff. I really enjoyed doing today's video, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So let's get started. This tip comes from David, and David suggests if you put glue on your surfaces and use a hacksaw to spread it. And of course, we all know that there's different size teeth in hacksaws. You're not going to be able to see that because they're too fine. But this is a little bit coarser one. And this is something I've been thinking about for a long time and just have not got around to doing it. So David's suggestion has sort of forced me to do that. Now, what I have here is an old bandsaw blade, and you can see how coarse this is. This is a resawing blade, but even with this, you could even grind that down to a certain length and use that. And one side of it I've ground down to nothing. You can see there's no teeth there, and that's just so that I can grip it without poking myself. But I want to show you just quickly using a couple of different size teeth here and just trying to get a little bit of an idea how well this would spread. And I'm just going to try this. I haven't tried this before, so I'm going to use this black one, which is very fine, and we'll just see how that spreads. I really think there's something to this, because this way you put on an even layer of glue all the way across the surface. You're still going to get some squeeze out, but hopefully not as much. Now the next one I'm going to use is a little bit coarser. We can't really see because the glue has sort of melded together into itself, but this one, maybe we can see, yeah, see, it's a little bit coarser. And I don't know which is it's probably going to depend on the surface that you're using. And I'm using MDF right now, so this glue tends to soak in quickly to this. But the hope with this is that you might use a little less glue, but more than that, when you put the glue together, you get an even squeeze out. And I don't know what that's going to look like here, because I'm not even going to clamp it. I'm just going to sort of squeeze it down, and hopefully there isn't an excess of glue coming out. And you can see there's area in here. I did not get any squeeze out, so that's not good. And this area here, I get most of the squeeze out along here, but I also had some gaps in there in the glue. But look at it, it's just a nice fine line, and that's exactly what we're looking for, so you don't get gobs one area and then holes the other. So I'm going to keep experimenting with this, David. I think this is a great idea, and hopefully I can come up with a little bit better idea how this is going to work, and a better process for applying that. So thanks, David. This tip comes from Ken, and Ken suggests if you have some old push blocks or push pads as they're called, you can take off the bottom of them and apply something called grate tape. Now I use grate tape. It's basically an anti-skid for carpets, but it works great in the workshop. In fact, I use it on the bottom of my magnetic switches, and it just adds so much power, so much sticking power to them. It's really great, but we can use them now. He's suggesting you can use it on your push pads. Now, I went out years ago and sort of made my own, because the ones that I'd purchased, they weren't working anymore. You could see how easily they slide, and it never dawned on me that you could take this padding off and replace it. I didn't even have this years ago when I made the other ones. But one of them that I looked at, I don't know if you can see, but right in there, there's sort of a hot spot. And that's because when I pulled it off, I discovered that the plastic had a bump in the middle. So what I did was just put it on my flat sanding surface, and I've sanded it nice and flat. And this one, I haven't even taken it off. You can see that that's it, it just peels off. Now, grate tape comes with a sticky back on it, so once you get that little film off the back, I'm struggling a bit with it now. There it is. you just take it off there, and I've cleaned this surface now, and I should do it again anyway, and you just stick it on. Now, you could run this through your table saw and just trim these off, but you know what? I don't think you even need to do that. And that's stuck on there. And if it wears out, you can take it off and replace it with more. But look at the difference. I can't believe the difference that this makes. You know, these are worn out, probably old material that, you know, wasn't as effective as this new stuff. And this is just great. That's a great idea, Ken. Thanks for that. This tip comes from Jason, and Jason says if you have a situation where you can't get glue into an area, and I've been in situations like that, and I always struggle with what to do with them. Even this little thing, you know, it's really hard to get into tight little areas like that. And why you might be putting glue in there, maybe you have a little strip of wood that you want to put in there and you need to put some glue in there. You can glue this surface, but how do you get a little bit more glue on the inside there? And he suggests you can use the same kind of a plastic bag or the same idea as what cake makers do. And what they do is fill a little bag or put a little bag with, I guess it's like icing sugar or something, when they're icing a cake, and you can fill up the bag or put enough of it in the bag down in a corner. And I've never iced a cake like this, so I'm going to be struggling with it. But now what you do is just snip off just a little bit at the bottom, just a tiny bit. And now you can take that and run that along just like that. Look at that. That's amazing. Run a bead all the way along like that. And now you can put your other piece of wood on top of that. Now this isn't waste, because I can take the lid off this and squeeze the rest of this back into my jar. So it's just a great idea all the way around. I thought that was excellent. And that works really well. Thanks, Jason. Here's a tip from Woody, and Woody suggests from time to time we often have little pieces that we need to glue on. Sometimes toy making and things like that have little tiny pieces, and it's really hard with a big glue bottle. You often end up getting too much glue. He suggests using a Q-tip, and I keep this little bottle on my shelf in my workbench, and you've got two applicators. I've used both of these. You can use the cotton side, or you can snip it off, and now you've got just a little rod applicator, and either one of them work great. Often you don't need very much glue. Sometimes you just put it on the end and just apply it. I've actually got too much on there. Look, you can actually take it off as well, and now you can stick that on there, and no muss, no fuss, quick and easy. Just a little cotton swab, little cotton applicator. This tip comes from Stephen, and Stephen suggests if you've got a place where you want to do your glue ups and you don't want to get glue on your, say, on your workbench or wherever it is you're working, one of the best things you can use is craft paper. Now, I often use newspaper because I usually have some of it laying around, but you know, I hate it. It gets your hands black. It's very light. It doesn't work well for a lot of things. The only good thing about it is it's free. But you know what? This craft paper, you can use and reuse it over and over. It's so much thicker than newspaper, and it comes in a roll, comes in different sized rolls, different lengths of it. It's very inexpensive, and especially when you look at how often you can reuse it, I think that's a great idea. I'm also working on something else that I think I'm going to introduce today at the same time, and that is using parchment. And the nice thing that I like about parchment paper, one of the problems is it doesn't come in very wide sheets. The advantage with it is that when you get glue on it, it just stays on top. When it's dry, you just flick it off. It's so easy to work with. Now, if you've got smaller projects, or maybe you want to do you could do a couple of strips of it. And again, you know, you think, well, it's expensive buying parchment paper, Colin. No, it's not, because you're going to reuse and reuse and reuse this because the glue doesn't stick to it. So there's a couple of really good alternatives. The other thing that I'm using this for now is over top of my clamp bars so that the glue doesn't get on the clamping bars. I just cut little pieces of it. It works great for that. So lots of options. Thanks, Steve, for the craft paper. I really like that idea because it's a nice, solid underlayment for your glue station. This tip comes from Bill, and Bill suggests anytime that we have to cut through metal or drill holes in metal, and of course we end up with iron filings. And Bill suggests one of the ways of collecting those sort of right as you're cutting right on the spot is to use a mag switch. Now I know some of you are not familiar with mag switches, but these are magnetic switches with a little knob on top, and when you turn it, you just notice that drill bit turn when I turn that, and that's because it's activated. But I don't have iron filings here, but here's how it works. When you turn it on, it attracts metal, and you can see how these screws, how it's holding it, and when you release it, of course, they all drop off. They come in a variety of different sizes, and of course you could do the same thing with metal filings or iron filings. So you could just turn it on, and all of your metal cuttings would be attracted to that. Then you turn it off, and you'll be able to just brush them off, and that way you can collect them all on the spot. So I thought that was a great idea, Bill. Well, that concludes my video for today, and I want to thank everybody who sent in their tips and ideas and woodworking tricks to share with all of us, because that way we all learn together. And I know in the last few weeks I've got hundreds and hundreds of new subscribers, and I know many of them are going to be wondering what a mag switch is. And I've done a video, sort of an introductory video on that, and you'll be able to go, I've put a link to it there, you'll be able to go and have a look at that, and it'll sort of introduce you to all of the things. There's so many different things that you can do with these little magnetic switches, so maybe you'll want to check that out as well. I'm Colin Canet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.